Welcome to part 2 of the Coffeehouse Tour, an 8-part audio adventure exploring how a bitter black drink transformed the face of the capital forever. The complete 8-part tour is designed to be taken on the streets of London, but in the weeks ahead we are releasing each new episode on our website, where you can download it as a picture podcast or simply watch online. So, wherever you are, sit back, hold tight, and be plunged into the caffeinated world of 17th century London, where the growth of Pasqua's coffee empire has secured him a powerful enemy.
Walk into St. Michael's Churchyard.
As the years went by, Pasqua became acutely aware that he had outgrown his shack. Hungry for profit and prestige, he coveted something grander. Pause here a moment. See the peculiar house in the distance, on the left above the jewellery store? Back then it was a battered wreck of a building, a crumbling waterfall pouring into the alley below. A doss house. But it was bright, spacious, and offered refreshing views over the churchyard from the first floor. And from 1654, it lay empty. Pasqua spied an opportunity to transform Coffee Shack into Coffee House.
A coffee house, with my customers perching on long wooden benches, shielded from the elements by a roof. You think I'm crazy? No, my friend. There'll be tables strewn with papers, elegant coffee waiters, and crystal clear bay windows through which I, Pasqua Rosee, will look down upon the churchyard vendors in their puny wooden stools.
Here we are at the benches. Let's stand here a moment and survey the scene.
The area's revolutionary past is hidden behind the facade of this leisurely, unassuming churchyard. But if we peel back the surface layers and peer into the past, we'd find not only Pasqua and his shack, and the ancient Christian churchyard, but also the remains of a 1st century Roman basilica. And just as the Romans felt threatened by Christianity, so the church was riled by coffee. Pasqua's shack, a sacrilegious cancer on the churchyard wall, the first outpost in an ominous caliphate of coffee. A later maxim told how Englishmen no longer said prayers over breakfast, but rather read newspapers and drank coffee instead. In the 1650s, we would now be walking under the churchyard's cloister, the stone wall to our right, gardens to our left, and the bustle of trade beyond. It was a choice spot for Pasqua's customers to sip their coffee and mingle. Pasqua had a vision. At certain points in their hectic routines, merchants and tradesmen would flock to this sanctuary for a caffeinated kick and a spot of merry discourse.
Your servant, sir, what news from Tripoli?
Not good.
Pray tell.
It is said that the new fleet of the East India Company has been smashed to pieces. In the Bay of Bengal, all hands lost.
No.
'Tis true, my friend. I heard it in the coffee house. Quite what this means for the price of East India stock remains to be seen, but I'll tell you this.
Recharged and inspired, they would rush back to their offices or to the floor of the Royal Exchange to seal some killer deals. That's why Pasqua chose this spot, to attract the custom of wealthy merchants who needed a shot of caffeine to pull them through their hectic routine. No doubt many spat out their coffee in this very flower bed. It was notoriously bitter, routinely compared to soot, prunes, grit, and worse. Quite what the local Puritan minister made of all of this, one can only imagine.
Can I help you, Mr. Rosee?
Doing a spot of gardening, vicar?
Yes, business is a bit slow today. I can't think why.
Cheer up, minister. We can't have you digging your own grave. Just yet.
Perhaps I'm digging yours. After all, we can dispense with Christian ceremonies, isn't that right? All you people from Turkey need is a shallow patch of soil, isn't that right?
Looks like it's getting a bit heated. Let's make our way back to the benches.
How charming.
Charming, Mr. Rosee. I'll give you charming. No one's coming to my church anymore. They're jittering about in the cloister, gossiping about tittle-tattle they've heard in your shack.
Coffee house. I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, well, perhaps it's a little something to bear in mind when setting up shop on the most ancient churchyard in Britain.
Ah,
I can't think what the churchwardens were playing at when they agreed to lease you the plot.
It's true. The churchwardens of St. Michael's, who met in this antechamber to our left, were no less profit-driven than the rest of the city. They sought to maximise the church's income by renting out as many plots as possible, before channeling the proceeds into property, thereby spreading their assets.
Keep on walking towards the benches.
Now look, Mr. Rosee, I don't want to quarrel. I've got a business proposition for you.
Go on.
Now this should be interesting. Let's perch on one of these benches. We've got the best seats in the house.
I've noticed how much your customers like to read. Well, we've just had some New Testaments and books of common prayer printed, and I thought that perhaps we could furnish the counter of your...
My coffee drinkers don't want to read parables and recite liturgy. No, they want to swarm together like bees and exchange ideas about politics and philosophy. They want to stay up to date with the very latest news from the four corners of the world.
God is the most up-to-date of any omnipotent deity.
Time to leave
Well,
the
he's
churchyard.
not allowed in my coffee house.
In the 1650s, almost everything in this alley was built out of wood, along with the rest of the metropolis. So everything here, all the shacks, stalls, shops, taverns and houses, were perfect tinder for the Great Fire. Accordingly, all were engulfed. As we leave the churchyard, let's gaze up one last time at the spire of St. Michael's, for it was the only part of the alley not to be destroyed in the fire, soaring up into the London sky as the rest of it was razed to the ground. But Pasqua's legacy lived on.